So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. We'll back here at BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, January 4th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It is, in fact, Monday, January 4th. We are now just a couple days into 2021. Hopefully everybody is enjoying themselves so far. It is, in fact, back to the grind, back to Monday. Coming off of the Christmas and the New Year's and all that, so we are officially back at it. NFL Week 17 finished off yesterday. The New York Jets finally, after 2 years of just absolutely terrible football, terrible coaching, terrible management, after 2 years of just terrible, just 2 terrible years for the New York Jets, we now have officially fired head coach Adam Gase. He is gone. He's out of here. Goodbye. See ya. He's gone. Forget about it. He is gone. Adam Gase is gone. He's out. We can forget about this, and now we focus on the future. We build towards next season. So he's gone. That feels great to say because I could not stand him as a head coach. He was terrible. All this stuff about him being an offensive genius was all one big lie. He was not an offensive genius. He was nowhere close to an NFL-ready head coach. He has to be one of the worst coaches I have ever seen. I think he's the worst coach in Jets history. And that's saying something because Rich Kotite back in the 90s was terrible too. I think Gase was by far the worst coach in NFL history or in Jets history. Definitely up there in NFL history too. He was terrible through these 2 years. Went 9-23, won 2 games with us this year, won 7 last season. Terrible. We fired him. We should have never hired him in the first place. Us Jets fans were saying it from the start that this was a bad hire, and now look where we ended up. He took this franchise and he took this team and gave him. We took a big step forward, and then we hired him, and now we've taken 3 big steps backwards. We took a step forward. We looked like, okay, maybe we could actually be a decent football team. We got Le'Veon Bell. We got a couple other free agents. Okay, we looking pretty good. Darnold, we finally loaded him up with some assets around him. Okay, we got Jameson Crowder, Perryman. All right, we're adding on him. And then all of a sudden, Gase just ruins this team, ruins them, and took this franchise and had him go another couple years backwards. And that is what Gase has done. So it is great to see that he is no longer the head coach of the New York Jets. He is now on his way to either a offensive coordinator job somewhere else, or I've heard rumblings that he was going to go back to Alabama, which he began. Well, he began with Saban. There's rumors now that he might go to Alabama and be the offensive coordinator there. So we'll see all what happens. But these are the topics for today. We got the NFL games, final week of NFL season. We now head into the wild card games for this upcoming season. We've got packed wild card weekend. You've got 6 games on, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, triple headers on each day. Going to be a packed sports weekend again. Although the Jets are done and pretty much and a lot of other teams in the NFL are done, it is still great to know that, the NFL is still continuing. We got the wild card round this week. We got a couple really good matchups. Like I said, 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. Obviously it was another good week of football. I was felt pretty good about, this season. It was a pretty good year, in terms of success-wise, getting anything under control, the virus and all that. In terms of the Jets, it was a terrible year. But in terms of just the overview of the NFL, I thought they did an excellent job. There's a couple outbreaks here and there, but in the beginning of the year where, there was a couple outbreaks in the beginning of the year. But obviously they were able to really, defeat those outbreaks, and get it under control and play football games. And each team has completed their season with a 16 games in 17 weeks. So no matter if it was done on a Wednesday, a Tuesday, a Monday, a Thursday, a Saturday, a Sunday, whatever day you got it done, each team played 16 games. That was the worry going into the year, is are there going to be some teams going to the playoffs with 12 games? Is it going to almost be like a college football? Are there going to be some teams going in with 11 games played? Or are there going to be some teams going in with 13 games played, right? Everyone was concerned, because can you really compare a team that maybe had 9 games played compared to a team that had 15 or something, right? So it was a successful year, I think, overall for the NFL, not for the Jets, though. We'll get into that. So NFL games, then we have fantasy football, fantasy basketball. Fantasy football is over. Another year of fantasy football in the books. I finished third in both leagues. I guess I'm pretty happy about it. Nothing that I wish I finished first in both leagues, obviously, but I'm sure third, I'm okay with third. I'm satisfied with it. So third place in fantasy basketball is just underway. We got a lot of tough stuff to talk about there. Then we got college basketball, football, NBA, Nets, Knicks, and Kentucky. Kentucky picks up the first win of 2021. We are 1-0 in 2021. We are 1-0 in SEC play. Could this be the start of something? Deontay Allen had a great game. We'll talk about him and how he could really impact this team going forward. A good win for Kentucky, double overtime, 78-73 against Mississippi State. We play Vanderbilt tomorrow. Definitely a chance. Vanderbilt's a team that we could definitely be a chance tomorrow to definitely get another win. I'm telling you, if this team starts to mesh together, develop these young guys, we could form a team. Now, is it the season we've wanted? No. We might barely squeak into the March Madness, but if we're in there and we're hot, that's all that matters. So Kentucky's got to continue to win some of these meaningful games, and we'll be going. So a good game for Kentucky. Like I said, I want them to make the March Madness, but if we don't make the March Madness, I'll be mad. Because as a fan, you set this team to a high standard. But if it means, if it means that we start off 1-6 and we finish on a high note, if we see, Brandon Boston, if we see Terrence Clark, if we see Deontay Allen, guys like these young guys, they're obviously the future of possibly this team and also the future of the NBA. To see that, it would be good, I think, if they can improve, if they can possibly improve, I think that would be a very good thing to see. Even if we don't make the March Madness, if you could at least see the improvement from the first 7 games to maybe the final 20, even if it's from the first 10 games to the final 20 or final 10, 15 games, however you want to put it, whatever sample size you want to take, if we can finish the season on a high note, that's really all that matters, because it's going to be a tough year. I don't think we're winning the March Madness. We were probably going to come in as a very low seed. But it's a team that's, we got to just make sure that we just do things right. So, Kentucky gets a win, good win. But with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the NFL season, crazy I am saying this, I could just remember week 1 of the NFL season when I was talking about the New York Jets battling the Buffalo Bills, week 1 of the NFL season. I could just remember that. It was crazy. That is already, the NFL season is already done. The Jets are done. They are headed into the offseason with a 2-14 record. That's really how it is. Now, first off, let me explain something. So I finished the season. So let me get into my game picks really first. First off. So I said, and I'll keep this quick. So I said on Friday, if I wanted to hit 180 wins, I would need like a 13-win week. Well, I didn't just get a 13-win week. I went 14-2 this week on my game picks. 14-2. And I'm not lying when I say that. I'm not just purposely doing that just so then. I'm not. I don't lie about these picks. I promise I don't lie about them. I don't. I could show you all of them here. And if you want to look back on the podcast, you can watch and you can find the winners. Right? I went 14-2 on my game picks this week. So, that was my best week of the entire year. Obviously, 13-3 was my best week in week 2. It's been 15 weeks since that, and now we hit week 17, and I went 14-2, and I finished the regular season with a 181-86 record. Now next week is the wild card games. I'm 0-0 currently for that. I will count I'll do a separate thing. Wild card's gonna have a separate playoff record, and I'm also gonna do then I'm also gonna keep my overall record. So by the end of this season, if I could possibly have 200 wins, that would be very good. But I'll keep my overall record, and I'll have my playoff record. So that's it. Through the 17 weeks, I went 181-86. finishing off with a 14-2 week, and now we head into the wild card weekend, which currently I'm 0-0 in. I'm going to be a little bit of a smaller, obviously, because you only have 6 games, so it's, I could very well go 4-2, I could go 5-1, I could honestly go 6-0 for all we know. Obviously, should be interesting. But I'm excited. I'm excited for wild card weekend. So I went 14-2. Final game picks of the season was 181 and 86. I finished 95 picks above 500, which is just very good. It was a successful year for game picks. So 181 and 86, I finish out the season, and now time for the playoff game picks. So that's the game pick. So now let's get into the games and specifically the Jets game. So I'm going to talk about the Jets game, obviously, but I kind of wanted to do a little bit of an overview of what the offseason could look like, possibly what's going to happen with the New York Jets. So the Jets yesterday lose 28-14. We finished the season at 2-14. The Patriots finished the year at 7-9. To kind of do a quick overview of this game, the Jets were in this game the entire game. As a matter of fact, they were winning there for a little bit. It was a tie game, 7-7. They come out of the half. They have a nice drive. They score. They look good. You're like, okay, 14-7. All right, I wanted us to win. I've been rooting for us to win. I wanted us to win after we really lost Trevor Lawrence stuff. I was rooting us to win for the entire season outside of that Rams game because I realized after seeing what Trevor Lawrence did to Notre Dame, I was like, wow, this guy could really be our quarterback. Like, this guy could be our quarterback. Like, I was kind of sitting there watching that game like this is it. Like, if we win a game, we lose probably the best prospect ever to come out of college. So obviously, knowing that. So, I was like, you know what? If you're looking at the big picture, what does a Week 14 win do for us when you could get this guy? So, or a Week 15 win for us. So, what could you do? When I want this guy. So, but then when we won that against that Rams game, I was rooting for us to win against the Browns because I knew we had no shot at getting Lawrence. It was out of reach. So we beat the Browns, and I was rooting for a win yesterday. And we ended up losing, obviously, yesterday. I was hoping, finish the season on a high note. 3-13 looks a little bit better than 2-14. Although it's, I guess the proper send-off for Gaze would to have a terrible record because that's just what he deserves. He's an awful coach, just a loser of a coach. He's just horrendous. He's horrendous. Can't stand him as a coach. And I know a lot of players have talked highly about him as a coach, but sometimes those players purposely say that because of the media. They're not going to go out there and bash him. When everyone knows, they're not going to go out there and bash him. So that's kind of it. But the Jets lost here 28-14. We sustained a couple good drives. We had a couple good drives going. We were looking good. Darnold looked good. Darnold looked good the entire game, and he just played very bad late. He threw 2 picks in the second half. This is the thing, and this is where I'll get into it. And Cam Newton played very well yesterday. He had a very good game. He threw 3 touchdowns. He also called a touchdown. He ran for a big play. The Patriots really dominated us in the second half, which doesn't surprise me because the Jets' second half woes just continue. But here's my problem with the New York Jets. I'm gonna keep this quick too because we have the rest of the NFL going too. The Jets have a lot of questions that answer this offseason. They really do. This offseason for the New York Jets, I would say, could very well decide what way this franchise goes for the next, you could even say 5-6 years. If we don't make the right decisions this offseason, not all of them have to be insanely correct. Oh my gosh, we got every best player available. No, they don't have to do that. But if we make any real, we might make a little mistake. Like maybe, I don't know. Maybe if we missed out on one of the top free agents, okay, maybe that's a mistake. Or maybe if the head coach, is not quite what we wanted, if it's like maybe a smaller name head coach, we might make a little mistakes. But, we have to bring in the right coach. We don't have to have, we do need to have an almost to perfection offseason. Now, you cannot be perfect. The Jets can't get every single player that's out there on free agent. So let's just say we get Allen Robinson and Aaron Jones or something, but we don't get Kenny Golladay. Well, we don't get him, but it's not the end of the world, right? We got Allen Robinson and Aaron Jones. So it's not like the Jets have to go out there and get every single person. But I'm telling you this has got to be one of the most meaningful off seasons for the New York Jets in recent memory. And I think this is huge. We just got rid of our head coach, okay? Here's why this is so meaningful. We also have a very big decision to make. You want to know the decision? We either keep Sam Darnold and we either keep Sam Darnold, right? And, we either keep him and we build around him with Allen Robinson, draft picks, guys like that. Or we move on from him and take a Zach Wilson, a Justin Fields, I would imagine Trey Lance and Kyle Trask are out of the equation now. Or we grab one of them and build around them. That is by far one of the biggest decisions this offseason. You got to make a move. Are you going to stick with Sam Darnold, the guy you just drafted 3rd overall a couple years ago and traded up for? Or are you going to give him away, or are you going to keep him and build around him and give him one more year? But here's the problem. If he has another bad year, you finish maybe 5-11, all of a sudden the coach is taking fire, all of a sudden the team's under fire, players might want out, then all of a sudden, oh no, look what we got ourselves into. Another dumpster fire. That's what happened with Gase. We said to Darnold, we didn't say this, but it was almost like Darnold. We said this, like, Darnold, this is it, dude. You got Gase. Like, this is it. We built around you a little bit. Let's see what you got. And he hasn't done anything. So do we continue to build around him and try to bring in a right coach? I mean, that's another problem, though. Do you just bring in a quarterback, let that quarterback inherit that, that system? Or do you put Darnold under a brand new system? What do you got to do? I mean, the hope is that you have a full offseason. So OTA start in May, training camp starts in late June, early July. You hope that's the case. This season, obviously, with COVID, that was not the case. Training camps and stuff didn't really start until late July, early August. So you only had about a month to prepare, which, to think about that, you usually have 3 months to prepare. 3 months to compare to a month is a whole lot different, especially for the rookies. Especially for some of the rookies coming on, too. Because usually the rookies start in May with the OTAs. That's the optional training thing. Usually the rookies go there. Sometimes the veteran players go there, like sometimes a veteran, or even like a Darnold, a guy who's still learning a little bit, he would still go there. But like I said, you've got a lot of questions to answer. If the Jets mess this up, this could not only set their franchise back for next season, but this could set our franchise back to another 5-6 years. It could get really bad if the Jets do this bad this season. You want to know why? Because we have an opportunity to possibly turn this ship around. Possibly. I don't want to sit here and say playoffs next season, but we have a chance to possibly turn this ship around and be a competent football team again. What am I talking about? Maybe being a contender, at least competitive. Even if you finish 7-9, but you're competitive in games, okay, I can understand. This season, we're getting blown out by 2-3 scores every game. If we're competitive in games, we're just, if we're competitive in games, but we're losing them, but we're competitive, okay, I can understand that. I just want the Jets to be back to a competent football team. I don't think you could say playoffs yet, because I think that's a little outrageous. Maybe playoffs 2-3 years from now. But I want the Jets to be a competent football team again. That's all I'm asking for. And if we do some things right, if we do it right this offseason, we'll do that. We'll be in that position. That's all I'm asking for. And the Jets have already put in a thing to interview the Colts defensive coordinator, the Seahawks defensive coordinator, or offensive coordinator, the Panthers offensive coordinator, the Chiefs offensive coordinator, Bieniemy, and Dable. So we put in about 5 interviews. 5, I said, I think on a podcast we'll probably interview 15 to 20 coaches, and each week, I'm sure after the first round of interviews, you'll probably narrow it down. Okay, this guy isn't a great fit. And stuff like that. You'll probably be like, okay, definitely not this guy, not what we want. Okay, this guy's good, and you keep narrowing it down until you have your final 2. Preferably, I would love that to be Bieniemy in the final 2, and you go ahead and hire a Bieniemy or a Dable. My first choice as the head coach, they got to nail the head coach right, too. They have to. And I was looking at something today. The Jets hired Adam Gase on January 9th. 2 years ago, obviously, but January 9th. January or last season. No, did we hire him last year? No, January 9th. Isn't that crazy? We hired him January 9th. So that's just amazing. Because the season was over, and then we just, out of the blue, just hired him. It was January 9th of last year. This was January 9th of last year is when we hired Gase. Because obviously 2020 was, 2020 was this year. We hired him in 2019. I know the years. It sounds crazy, but we did hire Gase last year. because then we had last year's season, and then we went into this year with him being in his second year, which was 2020, and now it's 2021. So technically not last year. We hired him in 2019. So technically not last year. We hired him in 2019, so we hired him 2 years ago. But still, football seasons-wise, it's like a year ago. So that's it. So it is really crazy what he's done to this team. We got to nail the head coach right. So yesterday, Darnold went 23 of 34, 266 yards, 11.6 to his average, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, and a rating of 76.3. Josh Adams had 11 carries for 47 yards, 4.3 was average. He had a touchdown. Ty Johnson followed that up with 11 carries for 45 yards as well. Receiving-wise, Perryman had 3 catches for 84 yards. Kurt Turner had 7 catches for 63 yards, and Darnold's lone touchdown pass. And Crowder as well hauled in 4 catches for 31 yards. As for the Patriots, Cam Newton went 21 of 30, 242 yards, 11.5 was average, 3 touchdowns, 3 sacks, and a rating of 127.4. Obviously, Jacoby Myers had a completion for 19 yards, a touchdown, and a rating of 158.3. Cam Newton had 11 carries for 79 yards, 7.2 was average. He had the big 50-yard run early in the game. Sony Michel had 16 carries for 76 yards, 4.8 was average. As crazy it may sound for this Patriots team, this is very odd, but all 4 of their touchdowns they scored yesterday were through the air. Jacoby Myers had 6 catches for 68 yards. Sony Michel had 3 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Ossie had 2 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. James White had 4 catches, 31 yards and a touchdown. And Cam Newton on the trick play, they had a little bit of a jet sweep. Jacoby Myers threw it to him for the touchdown. He had a catch for 19 yards and a touchdown. So, this secondary for the Jets to be really ashamed of themselves, especially the fact that this is a team that really struggles in the passing game. They are known for their run game, and all 4 of their touchdowns yesterday were passing touchdowns. So 3 of them were by Cam, 1 of them was by the trick play, which the receiver threw it. So the secondary should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, you can't stop that. This is a team that's one of the worst teams in the league in catching or passing. We saw last week, Cam Newton against the Bills that went 5 for 10 for 34 yards. Yesterday, he threw for 242 yards. That's unacceptable. I get it's the final year, so final game of the season, so they're not going to go back and look at the film and stuff, but that's unacceptable. It really is. So, so 28-14, Jets lose, and the Jets finish out their 2020-2021 season with a 2-14 record. Frustrating to say the least, but I said this yesterday, I'm now to turn the page. This season's in the hindsight. This season's in the rear view. I've completely took this season and thrown it away. I'm not even focused on it anymore. I'm focused on the playoffs, as a matter of fact. And now I'm ready to see what this offseason has in store, to be honest with you. So now we move on to the Giants. The Giants yesterday, they took care of business. They won 23-19. Giants moved to 6-10 on the year. Cowboys moved to 6-10. Giants won. They needed the Eagles to win. The Eagles could not get the job done. The Giants lose the chance at the division. Washington is the NFC East champion. And the Giants lost. The Giants played a good game yesterday. Obviously, you had the fumble. I saw it because the Jets game was done, so I turned on the Giants game, and I saw the fumble. There's no way they're gonna this is like the end. This is such an NFC East ending here. This would be such an NFC East ending for them trying to run the clock out and the running back to fumble. And if the Cowboys were to recover, this would be the most NFC East thing ever to happen. Sure enough, it was a fumble, but it was recovered by the Giants. Wayne Gallman recovered it. The Giants got the ball back, took a knee, ended the game. Giants won. So Giants fans then were like, you know what? If Eagles win, the Giants are in. So, but that did not happen. The Eagles won, or the Washington won. Sorry, Washington won and the Giants lost. Here's my whole thing with the Giants. This will be another thing. I get it with the game and all that, but I want to kind of get into a little bit of the offseason stuff too. Right, the Giants got the decision to make this offseason too. What are you going to do with Gettleman? Are you going to fire him? I heard yesterday there was rumors that they're going to keep him in the organization, but reassign him to a different role, not the GM role. I think a scout, if he was a scout in the beginning of his career, was a very good scout, brought up some of the better prospects ever. He was a very good scout, brought up some good prospects. So he was a very good scout. And also as for the GM spot, who knows who could possibly take the GM spot. I mean, I know there's been a couple names out there. out there that could possibly be out there, but who knows? It's kind of all up in the air at this very moment. So I'm sure we'll find out soon. But it doesn't. And Jason Garrett's future is a little murky too. Murky too. Foggy, whatever you want to say. It's a little cloudy too. His future. They don't really know what's gonna happen with him. They were terrible on offense this year. If the Jets weren't an NFL team, they would be last in pretty much all the categories. Thanks to the Jets, they weren't last. So obviously, what's going to happen with Garrett? They obviously brung him here thinking that he would turn this offense around, and he really didn't. Jones had a down year, had another terrible year. If anything, Jones, I feel like, took a step back this year, if anything, which is not what you want your quarterback to do. But that could also be part of the reasoning on why you might fire Garrett. And another thing is, what do you do in the draft? Do you Andrew Thomas had a very disappointing year for their rookie. Do you add another offensive lineman? Do you give playmakers? Obviously, the drop passes have been unbelievable by the New York Giants. They've dropped some of the most drops in the league for any tight ends and the receivers. So, what do you have to make a decision here? You got to make a decision. What do you do? Do you build around? Do you give him an offensive lineman, Daniel Jones, and see if, maybe Andrew Thomas shows any second-year improvement and bring in another offensive lineman? Or do you, they're at the 11th pick right now. Jets have number 2. Giants have a number 11. So what do you do here? Do you draft a receiver like a Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith if somehow they fall to number 11? Do you take a Rashad Bateman or Rondell Moore? What do you do? Or do you maybe look at it as, what? I feel like we might be able to go out in free agency and find a receiver and offensive lineman. So do you look at it as maybe, okay, do we add on to the secondary? We obviously have a very good corner in James Bradbury. Do we add on, get a Patrick Surtain or something? What do you do? A lot of questions to be asked for both New York football teams, the Jets and the Giants. A lot of questions, and we'll find the answer soon. The Giants don't have the head coaching question at all. The Joe Judge will remain as head coach. There was no speculation on if he was getting fired. They're going to give him another year without a doubt. I wouldn't even be surprised if they gave him a couple more years. So they don't obviously have the coaching issue to figure out. The Jets do. So slightly less questions on the Giants' part, but still, yet another year without playoff football for the New York Jets and the New York Giants, and it's pretty embarrassing to one of the biggest markets in sports to have two failing football teams like this, and two teams that almost seem like every year take a step back. And the Giants, everyone's saying, "Oh, playoffs, but okay, you were 6-10. You don't really deserve to be in the playoffs. You hurt yourselves. There were so many games this season that you could have won. Mistakes hurt you. Evan Ingram catches that pass, different story. Daniel Jones doesn't throw that interception late against the Rams, different story. I feel like in a way that Seahawks game was one of the worst things that could happen to them. Because all of a sudden the national attention came onto them, and all of a sudden they started to stink after that. Because they were so focused on, we beat the Seahawks. Remember, hey guys, we beat the Seahawks. Put some respect on our name. Yeah, well, then you lost the 3 of your last 4. So the Giants won yesterday 23-19. Going to go through quick here. Dalton had 1 interception. He struggled. That's another thing, too. I'll tell you what, man. There's a lot of teams this offseason with a lot of questions. The Cowboys got some questions to answer. Jets got questions to answer. Giants have questions to answer. The Cowboys, what are you going to do with Dak? Are you going to keep him? Are you going to just let him be picked up in free agency? Same thing with the Giants. What are you going to do with Daniel Jones? Do you give him another year? Or do you go ahead and say, let's draft a quarterback in the 3rd round or something and go from there. It's going to be really interesting, to say the very least. And we'll see this all unfolded. Like I always say, I'll keep you all updated on these podcasts. I don't expect any big news to come out anytime soon. I would expect it to come out mid-February, early March, if anything, because of but I'll still keep you posted. So, yeah. So those are the 2 New York teams. Now we get into the rest of the league, Washington and the Eagles. Washington won this game 20-14. Okay, I'm not going to throw any speculation out there, but it seemed very weird that the Eagles were put in Nate Sudfeld in that part of the game, and obviously put in Nate Sudfeld in that part of the game, and obviously sit Jalen Hurts. Obviously, it was a very weird decision-making by Doug Peterson. And obviously, I'm sure a lot of Giants fans aren't happy. I'm sure a lot of Washington fans are happy, but I'm sure there's a lot of Giants fans that aren't happy either. It was very odd for them to put in Nate Sudfeld. It really was. But I'll tell you what, and to get to Washington, they play. I mean, they didn't play their cleanest football yesterday. I'll tell you that, but they definitely deserve it. I'll tell you what, with everything Washington's been through this season, from the name change to all the allegations to Alex Smith to the coach to everywhere around, this team. Obviously everything what's happened with this team. And obviously, even with Alex Smith, to see him back out there playing football again, it was just unbelievable to see that. I think that's a remarkable story. I mean, a guy who almost lost his leg is now a guy who, when he got that injured, it was more about saving his life at that point than his leg. And now that he's back out there playing football again and doing it pretty well is just crazy. And I'll tell you what, I'll be rooting for this Washington team. Do I think it's going to be tough for them? Yes, I think it's going to be very tough for them. But who knows? We've seen upsets before. We've seen these upsets before. We've seen teams, make it like a 49ers. No one expected them to make the Super. No one expected them to have the year they had last year. They went into the playoffs, obviously, as one of the higher seeds, but no one expected them to go that far. Look what happened to them. There's been very underdog stories. I mean, if you want to talk about New York sports, the Giants even. They made the wild card game. They played on the road the entire playoffs. They beat the undefeated Patriots. No one have ever thought that. You could even go to the Jets. They were 18-point underdogs against the Colts. They beat them in the Super Bowl in 1969 in the Super Bowl to win. So there's been definitely underdog stories. But a good win for Washington. I'm excited. And everyone's saying that, this team should have won it. This team should have won it. Oh, this other team should have won it. No. Washington obviously are in the division. They got the most wins. They're 7-9. They deserve it. You cannot sit here and tell me that they don't deserve it. They do. You cannot sit here and tell me, the Giants or Cowboys would have been. No. It is the Washington deserves the division title. You want to know why? Because they won it. They earned it. And they're obviously the best team in the division. Next up, the Raiders and the Broncos. This game was crazy. Broncos were winning this entire game 31-24, and the Raiders go downfield, drive downfield, score a touchdown 31-30, and John Gruden. This is the type of stuff I'm talking about. I wanted Gase to do this kind of stuff, but Gase is such a loser that he won't do this. John Gruden knows, you know what? It's the final game of the season. This game means absolutely nothing. It's whether we go 7-9 or 8-8. It means absolutely nothing. Let's take a chance. I believe in my players. That's showing belief in your players. That is showing that you believe in your players. He went for two. They connected it. They converted on two-pointer, and they won the game 32-31. And as for the Denver Broncos, this is another team too. A lot of questions asked this offseason. Raiders don't nearly have as much because, they've said that they're going to keep Derek Carr and they're going to keep John Gruden. But a lot of questions they asked this offseason. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep Drew Lock? What are you going to do? Are you going to give him another chance with Fangio? Are you going to give him another chance with Cortland signing guys like that? Or what are you going to do with this team? Same thing with Von Miller. Are you going to bring him back? Or are you going to let him, he's going to be a free agent. Are you going to bring him back? Or are you just going to let him go join another team? Another big offseason for the Broncos of a lot of questions they got to answer. Raiders win 32-31. Titans-Texans, this was another insane game. It was a 38-38 game. Texans, made the comeback with 38-38 game. And Tannehill and this Titans team still trying to win the division ever, obviously. Tannehill throws the ball, 50 yards downfield, throws it so deep. He connects. Gives it to A.J. Brown downfield, a long pass downfield, gets it to A.J. Brown, an insanely deep pass to A.J. Brown. Obviously, it was just an insane pass to A.J. Brown. He caught it. And then the kick by Sam Sloman, who got cut early on in the year by the Rams, doinks it in. He doinks. Yes, he does. He doinks the field goal to win them the division in. And it was crazy. He doinked it in. That's just crazy to me that he doinked it in. Just a crazy ending to a crazy season for the Titans. This was another team, a whole lot of ups and downs. You had the great start, you had all the COVID issues, you had all the some off the field issues and stuff, and for this team to stay together and still finish strong with 11-5 record to be in the playoffs just goes to show you how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is and how much good talent this team has on it. Titans win, another big season for the Texans. What are you going to do with the head coach? Really that's the big question is what are you going to do with the head coach? Because you assume with the head coach, other than that, Watson's going to be your quarterback. There's no question about it there. I mean, I guess you could say, are you going to get another receiver? David Johnson maybe. But I'll tell you what, David Johnson, to be honest, had a pretty good year. Hit a pretty consistent year. He was very reliable. So, but to be honest, I think it was a good year for the Titans. Next up, the Seahawks and the 49ers. This was another 49ers team, too. This is another team that got impacted by, the virus and all that, and they had a lot of moves, obviously, with the whole rules in California for the they couldn't have any sporting events. The Niners couldn't play at their home stadium for the entire season. They had to they could, but for the remaining season, they couldn't play at their home stadium. They had to play at Arizona Cardinal Stadium. So it's pretty crazy there. Obviously, they're playing home games at Arizona Cardinal Stadium, which is just crazy to me, knowing that this is a team that's not usually the case. And obviously with these guys, I'm sure having to switch their living situation and all that stuff, that's another thing. And now the question really is for the Niners is what are you going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo? Are you going to keep him? Are you going to let him go? What are you going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo? I think that's one of the big questions for the 49ers. And the Seahawks win, took care of business. Seahawks head into the wild card round going against the Rams. Should be interesting. So the Seahawks win that game. Next up, we got the Colts and the Jaguars. Colts win this game 28-14. This was another game, too. The Jaguars trying to play spoilers. They actually just recently fired their head coach a little bit earlier today. They fired head coach Doug Marrone. He had the league worst record while being there. Just not a good team. Hasn't been a good coach. No surprise at all that he got fired, to be honest. No surprise at all. Just considering the fact of a 1-15 season, getting the number one pick, all this stuff, just at this point was not surprising at all to see him get fired. Wasn't surprising, and for them to move on from Doug Marrone, now their future is now Trevor Lawrence, first pick of the draft, Trevor Lawrence, all that stuff, and the Colts clinched the playoffs. Colts made it interesting, but I'll tell you what, this is a Colts team. If their defense continues to play well, their offense is clicky, but if their defense continues to lock down some of these teams, they'll have a good shot. They play against the Bills. It's going to be tough because the Bills' offense is really good, and if you get into a shootout, that's not the offense you want to be getting into a shootout with because that Bills' offense is good. We saw them put up 56 yesterday against a good Dolphins team. So the Colts win 28-14. I noticed one thing with the Colts. And I get he's a rookie receiver and all, and I understand that. And you're not going to get 15 targets a game as a rookie receiver. But they got to get the ball more in the hands of Michael Pittman. I mean, I see so much upside in Michael Pittman. You got to give him the ball more. I've seen so many positive things out of him, even the little things. And I might sound stupid for saying this. This is how much I love sports. Even just the little things, like his route running, his cuts, his different reads, like the little things from him are just what makes him. He's just got such a bright future. I really see a future, true talent in their receiver, Michael Pittman. And I get it. Like I said, I understand. He's a rookie. He's not going to get 20 targets a game. But still, I mean, oh my gosh, he's such a good player. Like, I've seen so much positive out of him. You got to give him the ball more. But the Colts win 28-14. This was another game. I said it. I said the Chargers would win. They did. They won 38-21. The Chiefs finished. The Chiefs always finish 14-2 on the year. Chargers end the year with a 4-game win streak. They were obviously 3-9. They finished the year with 7-9, 4-game win streak. Anthony Lynn also just got recently fired a little bit ago before I came on air. He got fired. So now that leads Gaze got fired, Doug Marrone's got fired, and Anthony Lynn's got fired. So those have been your 3 firings so far. And other than that, I don't see any others happening really today. The only one I could possibly picture is maybe, the Vikings head coach maybe could possibly get fired. Zach Taylor, he was on the hot seat. He is not. Bengals are going to bring him back for one more year. Or not one more year, but they're going to bring him back, and it's kind of like, hey, like you got this. Like this is it. So, Fangio's coming back for the Broncos, so he's not going to probably get fired. But other than that, those are probably your prime firings today. For the NFL. So you might see like, I'm sure the Jets will soon fire their coordinators and stuff. You might see some other little firings here and there. But no, I don't think it really head coaches. I think the only next one I could think of is maybe, if anything, the Vikings head coach. That was another tough year for them. I would think of the Bengals, but they're bringing back Zach Taylor, and I would think of the Lions. They already fired Patricia. Falcons already fired their coach. So, I guess you could say the interim head coaches. Technically, interim head coaches are fired after the year. Like, they don't even because they're technically not under contract anymore. They just sign them for the rest of the year. So that's kind of the deal there. But the Chargers win. The Chargers won. I just hope the Chargers get this new coaching switch right. And the reason I say this is because I like Herbert. I think he's a great player. But when a quarterback plays 1 year, and I think that's the reason why the Bengals aren't firing Zach Taylor. When the quarterback gets 1 year with one coach, is all finally under his system, and is like, okay, all right, I'm going good. And all of a sudden you fire him and you got to go into a new system. That's the problem. That's a problem right there. Is when you fire him, got to go to a new system. Like all of a sudden, for the first 2 years of his career, 2 new coaches, right? You cannot do that. The transfer from college to the NFL is hard enough. From college to NFL with already 2 new coaches in your first 2 years is tough. So the Chargers have to make sure they do this right. Because the Jets didn't do it right, and look what happens to Darnold. Right? If you do it right, you'll be fine. But if you don't do it right, Sam Darnold right there. That's what could happen. But the Chargers won. Played well. Herbert definitely, I think, is probably Offensive Rookie of the Year, without a doubt. I would put my vote in for him. Next up, we got the Packers and the Bears. This game started off looking like, okay, maybe there's a chance of a Bears win here. Maybe an upset. But Rodgers started off the game so strong and finished strong. I'll tell you what, either him or Patrick Mahomes is my vote for MVP, without a doubt. Either him or Patrick Mahomes is the guy I would probably think is most likely and probably should win the MVP, I would imagine. Is either him or Patrick Mahomes. Just 2 unbelievable quarterbacks. Rodgers had a great year, and I've always said this. I don't know so much if he's purposely doing this just because they obviously drafted Jordan Love. But I feel like in a way, this is a little bit of a revenge here. Like, you draft Jordan Love, I'll show you why I still got it. And he's not just showing the Packers. He's showing the rest of the NFL if the Packers do, in fact, decide to go the Jordan Love route next year. He's showing the Packers that, hey, I still got it. He's showing the rest of the NFL, like, hey, I still got it in me. I still got it in me. Whatever team I go to, I've still got this in me. And this would just cap off what already is a Hall of Fame career for Rodgers. This would just put the complete cherry on top, get his MVP. And as for the Bears, they're heading in as an 8-8 playoff team. Not the best ever, but it is what it is. It's the NFCs for you. And the Packers clinched the NFC, so they have a first-round bye this week there. So we'll see what happens there. Rams beat the Cardinals. As crazy as it may sound, Cardinals will not make the playoffs this year. You thought for sure with the young draft picks they got, with Kyler Murray, with Kenyon Drake, with DeAndre Hopkins, you thought with all those guys they would make the playoffs, and they don't. They missed the playoffs, 8-8 record. They're out of it. They don't make the playoffs. They miss the playoffs. And the Rams, led by John Wolford out of Wake Forest, the absolute no-name quarterback, got the job done against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Rams win 18-7. Obviously, Kyler Murray got injured, but as for the Cardinals, it's time. You got to look for next year. You got to look towards next year. Obviously, I'm sure it's very frustrating. I'm sure for Cardinals fans, you had this team. You're like, oh, Hopkins, Murray, and this does not work out. So tough for the Cardinals. Obviously, the Bears have the tiebreaker. So the Bears are in, Cardinals are out. And the Bears will now play the Saints on Sunday. So that's the deal there. So next up, Saints-Panthers. Kind of is what it is. Panthers with a tough year. Not a good start for Matt Rule. They go 5-11. They threw a combined 5 interceptions yesterday. I would definitely go ahead and say it's a Panthers team that looks for a quarterback in the draft. I would definitely say that. As a matter of fact, I could quickly check here. Let's see. The Panthers are at 8 in the draft. So, I think the Panthers gotta look. the way of a quarterback. I'm sorry, I just don't know if Teddy Bridgewater's the the right man. I really don't. I just don't think he's the right guy. I just don't. I understand there's a lot of people out there that have hope in him, feel like he's still the right guy. If you put him under the right system and get him some other receivers, but I just don't. I really don't think that he is I just really don't think that he's the guy that's going to be perfectly fit for this team. I just don't. I just don't foresee that. I think they got to look at a quarterback, preferably probably like 8 Trey Lance or a Kyle Trask. Somebody would probably fall there. But the Panthers with another tough loss, and the Saints win. Giants Cowboys we already covered. Bills Dolphins. So the Bills beat the Dolphins 56-26, and this is also with playing some of their backups yesterday. So they won 56-26. Tua threw 58 passes. He almost threw the ball 60 times. He threw 58 passes yesterday. Just crazy to me that he threw that many passes. Josh Allen had another big day. He threw for 3 touchdowns. Another huge day for him. I'll tell you what, man. I said this earlier, and I'm going to say it again. This is a Bills team that you got to watch out for in the playoffs. And you better bet I'm going to probably take them going pretty deep in the playoffs. And one of these days, either tomorrow or a Wednesday or a Thursday, something like that, one of these days I will do a playoff bracket where I fill it out, give you my playoff bracket before the postseason even starts. I'll give it to you, and that's my playoff bracket. That is what that's my predictions. Problem is I do my game pick, so maybe I'll do it on a Friday, so then you could see my first round, and I'll give you the rest of the playoff bracket, and because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a playoff bracket, and I could pull it out at the end of the season, and look at it as and I could pull it out at the end of the year, and see, pull it out and see what how each team did. So anyway. So the Bills win, but the Bills, man, they're going to be, the one thing that I think is slowing them down is the Chiefs, and I think that's with every AFC team. And you got to go to Arrowhead, too, and do that. Luckily, the Bills, if they win, since they're the number 2 seed, luckily the Bills, if they win, the Bills won't have to face the Chiefs until the AFC Championship game. That is the next time they would have to face the Chiefs. Because the Chiefs get the lowest seed who comes out of the wild card round. So they won't have to face the Chiefs, is what I'm saying. So they're not going to have to face the Chiefs. And there's a little bit of throwback. Ravens-Titans, that's another wildcard game. That was last season's wildcard game. So they have to face the Chiefs, though. If anything, the Bills, if the Bills would to face the Chiefs, it's going to be an AFC Championship game. So that's the deal there. But yeah, so now I move on to the Vikings. Lions, Vikings got the job done. A frustrating year for them again. It's another team too. What are you going to do with Cousins? They really missed Diggs this year, could tell, but Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen did much better. Obviously, Justin Jefferson had a great year. I definitely think the future is bright for this Vikings team. It's just a matter of can you nail down the quarterback. And I think for the Lions, I wouldn't be surprised if Matthew Stafford's out of there very soon. As for the Buccaneers and Falcons, Buccaneers also won. Scary incident, though. Mike Evans looks like a bad knee injury. It looked like a torn ACL. I don't want to go that way, but it definitely looked like it. And that's the disadvantage of having playing all your starters, obviously in games that don't mean too much. That's kind of the disadvantage there. But hopefully he's okay, because that's a big loss if they don't have him. And then as for the Browns-Steelers made a close late game, but good for Browns fans. Obviously with all these years of suffering with them, they obviously haven't had what they really wanted. All these years of suffering, all the years of just bad. Finally see them make the playoffs is good. And then the Ravens smoked the Bengals as well. So the Ravens won as well. So and then your wild card matchups are set up. The 3 games are Saturday. On Saturday are the Bills, Colts, Seahawks, Rams, and Washington Buccaneers. And the 3 games on Sunday are Ravens, Titans, Bears, Saints, and Titans, Ravens, Bears, or Saints, Bears, and Browns, Steelers. So those are your games there. So yeah, with all that being said, that is what I got for the NFL Week 17 in the books. So the NFL season is officially in the books. Now we head on to playoffs. Coming up next, fantasy football. Okay, so for fantasy, I went in my one league. I finished the season with a 7-6 record and went and finished in third place. And for my other league, I finished with a 6-7 record and finished third place as well. So I'll go to this league, this team. Obviously, this team, it's pretty much over there. Eckler, he's questionable. Oh, he got a concussion. So that's it. That's it for the season. So obviously, that's kind of the deal there. That's it for the season. I won 249 to 149. I won, beat him by 100 there. So obviously won that. And now we move on to next season. So we'll see what next season has in store. But obviously, we'll see what next season has in store. I finished second in my division, third overall. So I finished in third place out of 6 players. So finished right about in the middle. Got into the podium. So I finished on the podium. I guess that's a positive. So that's kind of the deal for my players there. Not much fantasy football news. Obviously, season's over. As a matter of fact, if you look on the lineups, it's all blank. The projections is all blank now because now it's the off season. Like if you look at it, it says like this week is now considered the off season. So I gotta wait till next year though. And as for my other league as well, I won 285 to 181, so also beat person by 104, and I finished third. I finished second in my division, and finished third overall out of a 8-person league. So finished third in both leagues. So it's pretty good, I would say. For third place in both leagues isn't terrible. Obviously, I want to get first place in every league. I want to get first place, and I want to win every week. Obviously, I want to get first place. But, obviously, like I said, I wasn't in the one league that I finished 6-7 in. I wasn't too happy with my draft. So that's kind of on my part, and I will definitely do a better job next season of that. I will definitely have to improve that. That's on me. I definitely have to do a better job of that next season, drafting wise. I definitely did not like my draft. You draft, and then, when you kind of review it and you realize, some players they missed out on, some players that you could have gotten, really feel like, I could have done better with that. But, that's something I learned for next season. So we'll see there. But as for fantasy football or fantasy basketball, I'm 1-1. I won my first game of fantasy basketball last game. I won 1,510 to 1,430. I know the scores are very high because they're a couple days long and scoring's a lot big there. So I won in that. So I'm 1-1 right now. So pretty good there. Obviously good to pick up the first win. It's always good. I've always said it's always good to get the first. Like that's your first goal. Like your first goal is to get a win, right? It's always good to get the first win under your belt, and now you could start. Now you could start thinking on other things. Okay, let's build on this. Right? That's been my goal. Like that's always been my thing. Like just get one win. Because you don't want to be that guy that has no wins and you get a win like the final two games of the season or whatever. Like, you don't want to be that guy. You want to be that guy that gets the win early and wins the game. So, obviously, I got the win. I'm 1-1. So, and I play again today. Obviously, matchups are continuing to go. So, today I got Trae Young, Jimmy Butler, Jeremy Grant, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Kyle Lowry, and Fred VanVleet, and Victor Oladipo. Those are the guys playing today. So that's my team there. And also, I started a fantasy hockey league. So that's exciting. I'm very, very excited for hockey season. So I started a fantasy hockey league. Just normal. Got a fantasy hockey league in there. Got 6 players in it. Obviously 2 divisions of 3 players, so got 6 players in it. So I obviously excited for that. We have not started the draft. We have not drafted yet. We will probably draft very soon, I'm sure. But these are big lineups, so I'm sure we'll draft within the next couple of days here. I was even thinking about possibly drafting either today or tomorrow, but that's not really. That's something I would have to, run past the other people in my league. So, decide there. But we'll be doing the draft soon. Obviously, season starts January 13th, so we got some time. We got about a week. A week Wednesdays from when the season starts. So we have some time to do the draft. But we will definitely be doing. I like to do the draft. Relatively like a week out, usually a week or two out. I like to do the draft just so then you have your team and you can know like what you do. Because if you're a day before the games and you do your draft, you almost feel like, okay, like what am I doing, right? So I like to have some time in between. So I started Fantasy Hockey League there as well. So that should be good. I've always wanted to do a Fantasy Hockey League, just never have had enough people. And this year my goal is to get a Fantasy Baseball League as well. So this will be the first time I've gotten all fantasy leagues. I got a football league, I've got a baseball league, I've got a hockey league, and I got a football league, hockey, and NBA. I'm hoping to get a baseball league. I'm feeling pretty confident that I will. So obviously, exciting stuff there. So I'm sure I'll be doing a baseball league, but that's obviously when baseball season starts up. Fantasy Hockey League. Hockey's right around the corner. I'll have it all. I'm on this podcast covering it all for you guys. As you all know, I'm a big Rangers fan, so, obviously excited to see some of this young talent. Excited to see Lafreniere out of there. Hopefully, Artemi Panarin has another great season. We're going through a little bit of a rebuild here, but the Rangers, but we got a lot of young talent, and in the next couple seasons, about next 2 years or so, we should be a good team. So give us a couple seasons here, and we should be good to go. So, but now we move on to college basketball. Kentucky won. Kentucky obviously won their game on Saturday. They won, played really well, played very, very well. Was really excited the way that we played. Kentucky won 78-73 in double overtime. So we really played well there. Deontay Allen had 23 points, had a big day there. Obviously, he's been one of our top recruits. We haven't played him yet. He's still getting to the practice thing and that, but we played him and he played so well. So exciting to see there. Today we got West Virginia, Oklahoma State. I give West Virginia a win. That's the only AP top 25 team. I'm sure there's some other games on, but that's it there. And as for college football, Clemson obviously lost. They got smoked. Same thing. Clemson obviously lost. They got smoked. Just not looking good there. Fields look very good though. Texas A&M won. Iowa State won. Mississippi, Ole Miss won. Kentucky won. Alabama won. Northwestern won. Georgia won. Those are the rest of the games. And then obviously the national champion is set. National championship is set. Alabama and Ohio State. So Ohio State, Alabama there. So that's it there. Then we got the NBA. The Nets lost again yesterday. They fall below 500. We lost 123-122. We just, it just couldn't, we had a couple of chances late in that game. Our defense just got to get better. For today's game, we got the Magic, Cavs. I give Magic the win. 76ers, Hornets give 76ers the win. Raptors, Celtics give Raptors the win. Hawks, Knicks give Hawks the win. Thunder, Heat give Heat the win. Mavericks, Rockets give Rockets the win. Pacers, Pelicans give Pelicans the win. Bucks, Pistons give Bucks the win, and Warriors, Kings, I give the Kings the win. Even though Warriors coming off that big win there. Obviously, Curry had the big game. The Hawks in next play. Hawks have looked good all season long. They obviously just got done playing the Nets for the 2 games and then the game against the Cavs. So Hawks have looked really good this season. And the Knicks are still growing. The Knicks are still getting better. They're still improving. And they've had a pretty good start to this year, but they're still, still young. Still got a lot of young talent to develop. So, the Knicks are still trying to improve there. But, that's what I got. That's what I got for all the stuff there. And like I said, no football, no Monday Night Football on tonight. I know, it's kind of weird. Like, this is kind of where you're going through a little bit of a, and it's kind of weird because there's no, and NFL isn't on weekdays anymore. There's no more Monday Night Football. There's no more Thursday Night Football. There's only Saturday and Sunday games now. So obviously, in a little bit of it's no football this week and until the weekend, obviously. But usually tonight would be Monday Night Football and stuff. So we don't have that, but we got some other stuff on as well. So that's good. That's should be pretty good. So with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.